Hey everyone, it's time for this mess. Bless this mess. We'll get some music started. Yup, that is
It's time
accurate.
to Isekai Lexi's sanity.
That is true. Alright, so before we get really started, we should probably discuss like the whole thing about Isekai. So if you don't know, it is a fancy way to say fiction based on being in another world. And yes, I pulled out a whiteboard, although this is actually Clip Studio Pro Paint. So, um, so the entire premise is important because it accomplishes a few things and it entails a few things. So, the reason you would want to use Isekai as a premise is, really basic, but it accomplishes a few things. It gives you blank slate, exposition, and it also gives you a blank slate for social hierarchies. And I could just be typing this, but I felt like being a smug little shit today, so we are writing all this out. And also, what are the other ways? I know that I can ramble about this for eternity, but I'm trying to be like more proper about it. So basically, the strength of isekai is that uh, you can just kind of throw a modern protag into other social hierarchies, and my fucking taskbar is being fussy. Yeah, no, I know. Hello, Eat, my lecturer friend. I'm glad that works. Also, enjoy your weird number of points now, doll. Anyway, so so typically the way we actually that's true. The way we actually want to define an isekai is that there's like a severe break in there's a severe break in norms, which means VR MMOs where you get trapped. Okay. Um I'm not gonna forget my fucking dot hack friends. Um and full dive, which is based on a VR MMO that is so realistic that it's fucking awful to play, is questionable. But I'm including it for um for posterity's sake, because I think it's close enough that like it's fine. There was the thing that comes to mind with isekai is like roguelikes they don't have a strict 100% like definition for what counts as a roguelike. So instead it's kind of like a rubric of like however many traits these have. But like stuff like there are things that are definitely not isekais that people would posit as isekais that are just like straight up wrong. Like Danmachi. I can't write. And what's the other fucking one that I'm thinking of? It's such a long name. It starts with the, so of course it's gonna be at the bottom of my list. Hidden Dungeon. Dungeon. Only I can enter. They're not isekai because they're not actually. There's no world stuff at all. Danmachi just kind of works like a game. That world just kind of works like a game. In Dungeon Only I Can Enter just kind of works like a game. It's all like they are just power fantasies. So like it's a really not that complex actually, but oh, look at all my windows. Anyway, we have 78 78 entries. And there are a few oddities in here. So, Angel Beats I included because it is pitched as they've been teleported to another world, and it only comes to light later on that they're actually in purgatory waiting to basically pass on once they come to grips with the fact that they're dead. We also have Devil is a Part-Timer and Copcraft and fucking where is it? Recreators. Those are reverse isekai, where different things are brought into our modern mundane world. But they're relevant because of how they're playing with the tropes. Tenchi Muyo War on Geminar and Combatants Will Be Dispatched are isekais, but they're isekais set in a setting, a full setting, where those the worlds that are actually relevant are different planets. Like Tenchi Muyo War on Geminar, aka Isekai Seikishi Monogatari, like that's a spacefaring setting. But because they're transplanting people onto different like civilized worlds and kind of trapping them there, I'm including them for that sake. There are also things like Inuyasha, and I probably could have added, there was another one that I dropped. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Amatsuki, where a dude visiting like a VR museum gets teleported back in time. But like no one remembers that show. Hey, thanks for the follow, Scarlet. Scarlet Magus, thanks for the eventual follow. And then so like Inuyasha, I'm going to treat as an isekai because I know that it's like a time travel story. but also it is such a distinct jump in time that, and that's so fundamental to the premise that we're gonna count that for the sake of like leaving things clear. But and I would also consider like Futurama an isekai. Yes, I know. But that's like there is such a severe jump in norms that like and that gap between what the protagonist is used to and what they are thrown into is important to what to like the whole strength of isekai is that you can take someone, yes, Homestuck is an isekai and also a time travel story. It's a fucking mess is what it is. But yeah, there's going to be a jump in norms. Rosario to Vampire, he goes to a school full of monster people and he has to yeah. And also yeah, essentially that's my thought on it as well. Um but it's all about giving the protagonist a chance to escape the modern mundane social structure and the hierarchy they were trapped in, and whether they are delivered there by a god or a random natural law coincidence or some sort of freak accident or whatever varies on how the author wants to actually handle things. But okay, so let's just go through these. I'm going to make a new row. Nope. And then we're going to make this one. I did not watch these. Vision of Escaflowne. I tried to watch it, but it reeks of 1996. The premise for this one is a track and field runner whose hobby is tarot and that related mysticism stuff gets basically has does a tarot reading and just like, oh, I'm gonna get separated from my crush. Oh no. And then completely unrelated to that, a dude comes from a secret moon, fights a dragon in front of her, and she has a vision. And then she saves him from dying instantly. And then in the process of him claiming his trophy from the dragon, they get isekai back to the secret moon. And I was just like, okay, 1996 is very strong with this one, and so is the dude going, I don't need help from a woman. So I didn't watch any more of that. Inuyasha, I have not watched, not out of malice, but because it is just too long. I'm gonna be real. I am not huge into Ghibli movies, but I will at least give Spirited Away a C because it's not going directly to hell. This is also like a thing. Sometimes if the other world that they're transported to is something that they want to escape, it can become just a thriller about getting out of things, and it's a pretty good motivation to just be like, actually, this world sucks and I want to go back. Let's go. Dot Hack Sign I also haven't watched, mostly because it is also old and more melancholy than I wanted to deal with at the time when I tried to watch it. Um, Also, yes, here are the tiers. Something is rising and it's not the shield hero. I love this more than your mom and her 2-hit multi-target attacks. Before I knew it, my show had a second season, and didn't I say to make my review scores average in the next life? And then the not funny one, go directly to hell, do not pass go, do not reincarnate. We have some special entries for this one. Okay, so Girls Bravo, a show that I honestly mostly enjoyed, except for when I went back, like when I went and looked at it again, I was just like, wow, this is peak, not anime. Um, it's there's an underground lesbian fighting circuit that happens. Um, it's something, but also it starts out with the main character getting warped to the moon, where there's a secret society of all women who live there, and then one of them gets warped back with him. So it is both a little bit of an isekai and a mostly a reverse isekai. Um, it's not bad. It's not good, but like some of the animation in the final sequence where uh the main character stages an assault on the Moon Society to get his girlfriend back. Shockingly good animation. Okay. Full Metal Alchemist, Conqueror of Shambhala. Full Metal Alchemist, the original TV series, ended with Edward Elric getting isekai'd to our world in 1930s Germany. So I'm counting this and not the full TV series because that's kind of superfluous to how the TV series goes. But this movie is about that bridge. And also, if I remember, it's pretty good. So we're putting that in B. And then we get to The Familiar of Zero, where the protagonist gets summoned as a familiar to Luis de Francois or something. The straight up the cause of the tsundere boom, I think. Like, yeah. Starting in 2004, the light novels for Familiar of Zero. She was the archetypal tsundere. She popularized an entire trope. At the end of season 1, uh, what's his face has the opportunity to fly a World War II era biplane into an eclipse to get back to his own world, and he decides not to. So he then spends the next 4 seasons building a harem, and it's dumb. And I think the author passed away before. Uh, yeah, he passed away in 2013. So, but there were 22 volumes after the after people continued to work on it, and it's trash. But like, there are way worse things that I've watched. I'm gonna put that also here. Okay, Rosario to Vampire is also trash, but it's harem trash, so it's my favorite kind. Um, the main character accidentally signs up to go to school in the other world, and it turns out that none of the other world is full of monsters who don't think humans exist, and he accidentally gets found out by a vampire on his first day, and they try to keep it secret while he slowly accrues more girlfriends. And it's a whole thing, and it's dumb. Yeah. I also, okay, Tenchi Muyo Warrior and Geminar is related to Tenchi Muyo, but it stars a completely different protagonist who gets isekai to like a mech academy, I think. And then there's a war that gets fired up, and it's only 12 episodes, but each episode is double length, so it's actually more like 24. And I wanted to like it, because, like, fucking, like, there are a lot of girls. It's just one of those shows where they're just like, hey, let's see how many different girls we can fit in this show. And they're all, like, they were all right, but it was just paced so dreadfully slowly that, like, I stopped. So this is going to be on the least offensive part of D, where it's just like, this was too boring to continue watching. In a specific way. Angel Beats, good, but it's also like a Maeda ass, make you sad, cry lots kind of thing. So if you're not ready to be like emotionally manipulated, it's not for you. That's because that's the Maeda joint. Is just like, hey, are you ready to cry? Can you buy into this plot? Because you're gonna cry if you buy into this plot. And then we have Dog Days. Dog Days is a thing. I think like season 1 and 2 of Dog Days are so boring that I literally forgot that I watched them. Because there's no stakes at all, pretty much. The thing about Dog Days is that it's like an isekai where the protagonist gets isekai'd while he's still alive to participate in a non-lethal, basically ninja warrior ass system of war between states, where it's just like non-lethal fights with magic and then like obstacle courses instead of actual wars. And there's really no stakes in a way that, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. It rubbed me the wrong way anyway. But like, maybe I'll go back to it. I've heard season 3 is better, but that's also coming from my Dog Days fucking fan nerd friend. So maybe I'm going, like, I'm putting it here because I straight up did not remember watching season 1 and 2, but I did watch it. So just, Then we have Astaroth's Toy, which is très problématique. Okay. The premise of this is that a young succubus isekais, and you know that's a bad start. A young succubus isekais a dude who turns out to be her dad. And she was trying to summon someone to be a suitable training thrall, essentially. Things get worse from there. Go directly to jail. Okay. So now we get to like the stuff that like actually starts the acceleration, because all of these are kind of like you have to squint a little on some of these, but all right. Sword Art Online. Like I posited earlier, I'm counting this as the VR MMO trapped in genre. I'm counting that as Isekai because there's such a sharp like difference in social norms, and the instead of socially bound laws, they become like there's no police force. There's no actual police force in SAO. Instead, it's all mechanics based on game rules. So like murder is fine if you don't get caught, which the game will literally let you get away with murder. So like it's an isekai. I know some people would hesitate to that, but I'm going to put the first season specifically, the actual, we're not looking at Alfheim Online. This is the season specifically where they were trapped in Sword Art Online. That's in B. Because I think it did all right. I don't know. It becomes, Sword Art Online is weird because it becomes a couple of things before it, like, becomes what it ends up being. So it was first, we're trapped in an MMO, and people are dying in real life because of it. Okay. After this, because of Kirito's experience in Sword Art Online, he gets, and Alfheim because he's involved with all that stuff. But like SAO Season 2, which is the Gun Gale Online and all the other stuff, he gets tapped as a, kind of like an in-game detective to figure out what fucking nonsense is going on, because he's good enough to hold his own in all the fucking VR MMO shit, and he's written to be in a situation where he's smart enough to figure things out. Also, Excel World isn't on here because that is still primarily concerned with life in the real world, despite the entire existence of this cyber layer of the world that comes up in Excel World. Aesthetica of a Rogue Hero is about a man who gets isekai'd in the setting where occasionally people just get isekai'd and they go help out people in other worlds, and they come back and they're changed. And he came back and he kidnapped a princess or something as his reward. There's some fucking scene about piss in like episode 2 that made me go, I'm not gonna watch this, even as like a wee more tolerant idiot child. I was just like, nah, I think I'm good actually. It might be better. Yeah, pretty much. That is about what I feel about Aesthetica. Both the title and the premise are good, and they squander it on a dude who kidnapped a princess, and there's a piss scene, and it's just like, okay, why are you making this girl piss herself in like episode 2? Stop it. God. It's just so not worth it. Okay. Meanwhile, on the other hand, a show that I would not have expected to be like as pivotal to my sense of things as it was, Ixion Saga DT is getting put in A. Ixion Saga DT is an original anime apparently based on the IP Ixion Saga, which was an MMO that Capcom published and developed that never saw English release, and also never saw wide enough release to like get anything else. But Um, Ixion Saga DT. I'm scared to click on this clip, but whatever. Ixion Saga DT is the story of this little fucker, Kon, who gets isekai'd into an MMO he's playing, and gets wrapped up in the adventuring party of a princess and her guard. And the entire thing is about dick jokes. It is all dick jokes, to the point where there's a trans woman in the party. Because honestly, probably one of the best things you can do in a series about dick jokes is just have a trans woman there and everyone be cool with it. Trans rep matters, and also this is from 2012. It's a good show. They don't disrespect her at all. I love it. There's like one episode where it's kind of sketchy, and it's the worst episode anyway. And like, oh, it's such a weirdly good show that they teased like a fake teaser for a season 2 where it's like 10 years later and he gets isekai there again. And they were just like, fucking, this is not actually happening. And I was just like, I kind of want it to happen though. Problem children coming from another world, aren't they? Which I believe is Mondaiji Tachi something. Mondaiji Tachi ga isekai kara skuru so desu yo. I haven't watched it. They're apparently okay, yeah, I remember the premise for this one. Basically, there's a trio of psychic kids who are all little shitheads and who don't get along with normal society, and they get asked to help out this bunny girl who lost her lands to a demon of some sort, and they help her out? Question mark. I didn't watch it. The attitude on all three of these kids was just like way too much for me. Devil is a part-timer. Fitting for this rank. It actually is getting a second season. Like right now, I think. Yep, it's getting a season 2 right now. And it's really good. So basically, the devil gets isekai'd, or isekais himself while he's trying to escape a hero that's trying to kill him, and escapes with his right-hand man, and to make ends meet, he has to get a job, and he goes to work at McDonald's, and he decides that he's going to take over the world by climbing the corporate ladder. The hero also chases him, gets a much better job than him because she's the hero and much more competent, as it were. And it's pretty good. And I'm glad it got a season 2. We love to see things that are not utter trash get season 2. Speaking of which, I would love to see a season 2 of Outbreak Company. Outbreak Company is about, you know, there's a reason it's called that. And it's actually a pretty interesting... It's funny for me. It's funny to me. Its sense of humor is maybe not for everyone. But it's about a nerd named Shinichi Kano, I think his name is. Which, like, if I can remember his name, it's already pretty high on this list. But he gets basically recruited by the JSDF to be an outreach, like an ambassador for media in another world. And you think, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And then you realize that the show is called Outbreak Company because they're trying to influence a foreign nation with soft power. And they're trying to basically... And by the end of the season 1, he's just like, okay, I kind of get that I'm an invader, and that's no good. And like, I'd rather not die, but also, it is kind of fucked up what we're doing here. Like, yes, he has like a little pocket of like insulation, but ultimately he's expendable until the end of season one, where he gains the protection of the crown. But like, his job is to cause an outbreak of Japanese culture and a need for it, so that trade relations can be established and the people there can be made like reliant on the JSDF and Japanese like products. And you don't really like you don't get many shows like that. It's pretty good actually. Okay, Log Horizon, another A. So this is another video game one, but this is like a proper VR MMO into becoming reality situation. Log Horizon, God, it's been so long. Honestly. God, how long has it been since Log Horizon? Log Horizon was 2013, fall 2013. So, Log Horizon, basically, at a new XPAC launch for an MMO that everyone's playing, a non-VR MMO, actually. This is before the whole, like, what if everything was VR MMOs? Like, everyone who was logged on at the XPAC launch for this new MMO, gets isekai'd into the body of their character. Within the first couple of episodes, you already meet someone who is getting massive dysphoria because, like, Akatsuki, one of the friends of the main character, is actually a tiny, short ninja girl in real life, or in the pre-catastrophe, I think? No, it was the apocalypse is the word they use for it. Pre-apocalypse, she was a short girl, but she was role-playing as a ninja, so she was like a 6 foot something skinny man, and she gets handed a potion to change her to her desired form. Yeah, DJ. And so like, it becomes very clear that the writers are like interested in the realities of what getting isekai'd into an MMO where you might be playing a different character than yourself would entail. There's also there's within the scope of 2 seasons, there's actually a couple of really interesting questions brought up, like, there are mechanical systems underlying the logic of the world that mean, like, for instance, you still have to pay a rent if you own a property, but you don't pay it to a person, you pay it to this, like, mechanical system, and they eventually do a raid on the stocks of money that are siphoned away by this mechanical system. And that's like a major point in season 2. But yeah, the Log Horizon is also very clearly interested in what society means to people and what happens when you're taken away from the social hierarchy and structure that gives you like gives you a comfort that we had to develop over a long period of time, because essentially it starts out like Sword Art Online, where like everyone's just kind of an asshole to each other, but eventually the in-groups that form do so and calcify a bit, and then they're broken apart again by people making an effort to reach out and support each other, and it becomes a really, really, really good story about how communities work, wrapped up in, like, you know, being an anime about fighting raid battles and shit, but like it's still like really more interested in that than a lot of things uh, would probably do. Its author was also arrested for tax evasion, which is very funny given how the fucking property he writes. Um, it's fine. He's out. He paid his taxes, but like Lamau. Uh, no game, no life. I didn't watch it. Um, it's just a little too memey for me, I think. Um, Basically the premise is kind of the same as Problem Children, but with a brother and a sister who are both like really into each other in a really weird way. I don't know. It kind of. Eh. They also don't have psychic powers. They're just really good at gaming. Um, Gate. Thus, the JSDF fought there. So this is another one like Outbreak Company, where there is like a mundane. There's a mundane bridge that well, not mundane, it's interdimensional travel, but like there's a walkable way where you can get from one dimension to the other. And I wanted to point out that both of those have used that opportunity to introduce the military controlling it, because as soon as there's a mundane and stable path between our world and something else, immediately the thought there is that it's a border. And the thing that borders want to do in a lot of these situations is people will go, that's a new border. We have a border with a new country. We need to put the military on it. Outbreak Company is just kind of like, it's less obvious than Gate, because Gate is literally about the military. It's interesting, but also I wouldn't say it's bad. It is very just like, wow, look at the military, look at what the military can do. And it's instead of like, yeah, I'm not surprised by that fact. Because like, it's very much like, hell yeah, the military. The first episode has the protagonist killing a dude dressed like a Roman soldier with a fucking knife. They shoot down a dragon with a fucking rocket launcher. Like, it is both very hoorah, look at the military, and also look at how cool Japan is when they're facing, you know, a fantasy world in a very brute force way. I like the character writing for the most part, but I like totally understand if just like the military worship skeeves anybody out. Because a lot of people don't like the military, and I can respect that. But I also grew up on stuff like Stargate, which this is kind of gives me vibes of. Overlord. Ha ha. This show is pretty fucking dumb, but it does a lot to characterize all the dumb villain shit that goes on. And I think Overlord is solid. I'm rewatching it because I wanted to prepare for season 4, and I hadn't watched season 3 since it aired. But I think, yeah, it does a lot of work. But also, Overlord and Log Horizon are both actually something I want to talk about, because they bring the same fantasy. I talked to a couple of people about this. I talked to Eat and Doll about this, but like, Log Horizon and Overlord are both coming from the same fantasy of, this is an MMO that I know, and my character is being put into, like, well, I'm being put into my new character, and my character is being put into new content. These are both fulfilling the kind of obnoxiously common procedurally generated content means infinite meaningful content fantasy that comes with a lot of game design. And it's if we just turn the MMO world into a real world, there will be infinite content. This will come up a couple of other series, but like that is I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it as like a fantasy for game design, and using that fantasy as a game design to be kind of an interesting pitch for fiction that someone has to write is, understandable. I like a lot of the character writing in Overlord as well. And there's a lot of stuff that's just like, this could have been handled a lot worse. But yeah, speaking of handled worse, Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions. So the premise for this one is that a group of teenagers, I believe, they wake up one day and they emerge out of a closed building into a world that they don't recognize before they realize they have amnesia and they don't remember anything anyway. This is fine, but amnesia as a storytelling device gives the protagonist and the audience the same starting expectations of like, okay, we're going to need to learn about this world and the situation that we're in. Isekai already does that. So when you're overlapping these two, it kind of feels like you're overdoing it for no reason. And by like the end of season 1 of Grimgar, I didn't see any point why they had to be amnesiacs. But it was fine. It was like, if the title doesn't give it away, a little grim, but like it was decent enough fantasy, like drama and trauma, because one of their party members dies and it just like screws up their entire mentality for a while. Yeah, a little grim, very gar. Ugh. Okay, Konosuba. Konosuba, I'm actually going to put in S. Konosuba's God's blessing on this wonderful world. The premise here is that fucking Kazuma, what's his face? I don't know his other name. Kazuma dies of fucking embarrassment after thinking he's saving someone from an oncoming truck, but it was just a tractor, and it was just he left his room. He was a NEET. He left his room to go get something. He thought he was saving someone from a tractor that was going to run them over, but no such thing was happened, and he died of embarrassment. And he gets reincarnated, and he brings the goddess of reincarnation, or goddess who is giving him the reincarnation with him. Dipshits ensue. This is a comedy of dipshits. Everyone in the show is fucking stupid and a little mean to each other, but they get along better than they get along with everyone else, so it generally works out. The only problem I have with Konosuba is in the movie, there's and there's a villain who is hot as hell, who seduces Kazuma, and then he finds out she has a dick, and he gets freaked out. So a little transphobia just randomly coming up kind of soured me on this, but I think the series overall is really good. You know, fucking media problems. Let's just throw in a little bit of transphobia for a laugh. So Konosuba and ReZero are where we start to pick up speed a little, for the acceleration of Isekai. ReZero is a drama about a dude who gets teleported to another world. I don't know if it's ever made clear whether he died or not. But his name is Subaru, and he is the most miserable motherfucker, and he's only going to get more traumatized. Because basically, he gets infatuated with a girl called Amelia, who is a princess, a half-elf, and a witch of some description. And in the process of trying to protect her from assorted schemes against her life, he dies, and dies, and dies, and dies. And essentially, the main narrative loop that I witnessed while I was watching season 1, which is all I watched, is Subaru fails as a person, he dies, he improves a little bit, and he makes it past the next checkpoint. And then he fails as a person again in another specific way that really should have overlapped with the last time he learned something, but he didn't. So he just dies again, and he uses that time to get better, but he slowly just gets traumatized, and it's just like, okay, I don't need I do not need more than one season of this. I get it. It's good, but like really tiring if you're not into like trauma porn, basically. Saga of Tanya the Evil is a problem. The premise for this one is I forget what kind of scumbag was in was the original person, but basically a guy gets pushed in front of a train because he's a scumbag who gets like pushed off in front of a train at a train station because of one of his clients. He was a lawyer, that was it. He was a lawyer and he fucking screwed over someone and they pushed him off in front of a train. And God speaks to him and goes, blah ha ha, I will make you regret this or whatever. And he's just like, I don't believe in God. And God reincarnates him as a shitty little girl in fucking fantasy Germany, join the military, becomes like the youngest person ever, and has a bunch of magic powers that the powers above only allow to work if she professes belief in God, and just becomes a spiteful little shit about it. It wouldn't be so bad, except like it's just kind of aesthetics of fashy, and also the fandom is really creepy about, you know, little girls because it's anime fandom. So unfortunately, just go to hell. Do not reincarnate. Meanwhile, Recreator is another S tier. This is a reverse isekai, but it's special because it's about characters from in-universe fiction being brought to in-universe reality, and all of it is instigated by a fan character who was popular enough that they overtook the original in fucking popularity and public consciousness. And the entire thing is an interesting just story about how fandom influences canon. And also, it's just got really good everything. It's really good. It's got Hiroyuki Sawano music. It's on Prime Video, which is the most annoying thing to watch anything on. But, you know, it's really good. One of the characters, Meteora, is the sage from the last save point before the end of a game in an old RPG. I really love her. She is one of the inspirations for my character. And there's Silvaria, there's the stand dude, there's the mech, there's the like lady knight who has who comes from like really dark fiction. There's like a fucking psychopath ass dude. There's a magical girl, and it's all about these weird interactions and intersections of genre and what fiction does to reality sometimes. And then we have Knights and Magic. No, I did not typo this. It is Knight apostrophe S and Magic. It's just a really fucking funny show. I don't know. It's funny because it's okay. I'm gonna make a joke, and you have to realize it's a bad joke, and I know that's bad. It's good because of its earnesty. This only works because the main character's name is Ernesty. We're going to another page again. Ernesty! Fuck off, Mel. Ernesty. He's a little fucking twink. Anyway. It's really good. So he gets isekai'd, but he's a programmer and a gunpla enthusiast. And he's just like, holy shit, this world has mechs! I love it! And he basically learns how to do magic because it works like fucking, I don't know if they specifically name drop JavaScript, but like, he knows how to program, so he's good at magic, and then he's just like, I want to build a robot! And he builds a robot, and he does a bunch of shit. And then he gets into a fight with a mad scientist whose entire aesthetic like consideration is how big can I make this robot? And it's it's dumb, but honestly, it kind of rules. Which is, at some point, there's just going to be like, I have to admit this is dumb, but it kind of just rules. And Knights and Magic is going to be up there. Okay, Restaurant to Another World. There is a Western cafe, or like a Western restaurant in Japan, that magically has its door connected to a bunch of different places in this other world. And every week, on Saturday, or as they call it in the other world, the Day of Satyr, a door opens in several places across the lands, and people come in and visit and have food. And this is a little slice of life story about all of that. It's very cute, and a lot of it is just like, here is a here's a little eatery that lots of people like to have food at. Cool. They're from all sorts of different walks of life and different nations and stuff. And I think at the end of season 2, there's like a wedding there between two nobles from different nations. It's been a bit. Okay. In Another World with My Smartphone is dumb. Very dumb. It's just dumb. I can't justify this to you. You can probably figure out what the plot is. Basically, the main character gets killed by God on accident. Whoops. God's just like, I'll reincarnate you to make up for it. That would be nice, right? And he's just like, yeah, sure, I guess. I'm not too bent out of shape about it. And then he gets put into another world, but he gets to keep his smartphone. Then he ends up with 9 wives. There are 26 volumes of this light novel. That is 26. Apparently, it gets just incredibly deranged. Even I have a friend who is reading the light novels because all of them except the most recent one are translated and localized and everything. Apparently it gets deranged by like volume 10 or 11, like more deranged than season 1 of the show. It's getting a season 2. Thank fuck for that, but also there are 26 volumes. Why? Apparently all written on someone's smartphone. Because this is not enough of a meme. Oh god. Okay, so let's move on to Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. Okay, so this one, um, a dude who was working on programming a game at a company overworks himself and gets fucking isekai'd into like a game with a game situation. Like he has the UI and everything with like someone. I think the first episode is just like, we focus tested this opening, this tutorial, and people were having trouble with it, and he was just like, okay, as a hot fix, give them like 3 meteor spells, and give them a bonus if they clear it without the meteor spells. And he wakes up in this isekai in this other world, and he has 3 meteor spells. So he benefited from his own shitty game design, and then he casts them and goes like, did those do anything? And then like 3 meteor storms wipe out an entire like plateau worth of lizards and give him like a zillion levels. So it's just like, okay, you cheeky little shit. After that, he eventually buys like fucking a lot of slaves to free them from slavery, but also like, you still buying slaves, my dude? And it's just kind of like, it's trying to be cute about a lot of kind of edgy stuff, and it's still kind of just sketchy. Yeah. Izakaya, like Restaurant to Another World, but not. Trust me. Yeah, no, it's not the only isekai with owning slaves. We'll get there. Don't worry. Izakaya, Japanese food from another world. This is actually really an interesting compare contrast with a Restaurant to Another World, because Restaurant to Another World, it's basically a Western eatery that is completely isolated from the other world, except for the fact that the door will open to the other world on Saturday in a bunch of different places. Here, it's less fantastical, but more so. Izakaya is, they offered a prayer to a local goddess, and it connected their front door to the other world. And it's not just like, oh, it's a door around the world where like sometimes different people come in. It's literally just like, for some reason, their storefront is attached to a storefront in the other world. So they become part of the local economy, which is actually interesting. But they also become subject to like local laws and stuff. And they get to know people in the like I think it's I want to say it's German or Germanic, because they have Wurst, they have Kartoffel, like they have potatoes and a bunch of these like normal like European stuff, and they call it like Wurst and Kartoffel and like, but it's they become part of this, and it's like, here, Japanese food is so cool, wow, this beer is great, but it's still a chill time. And it's also just kind of like interesting, because here in A Restaurant to Another World, they like get involved with international politics. where it's just like, okay, nobles from a lot of different places, or a legendary samurai, or a wizard of a specific court come in, and they like have meals all the time, and they try to keep that separate from their outside of the restaurant lives so they don't influence things too much. But like, it's still like, the maid gets a job as a housekeeper with one of the other patrons, because they know each other from this eatery. And the goth girl in this picture is actually one of the legendary dragons that like caused the apocalypse, and she lives on the moon. But she comes in and she's like, wow, this chicken curry is fucking bomb. Can I work here to pay for it? Because I don't have money. And another client of theirs is a red dragon who takes similar human form. So like, they're host to a lot of international politics and their parties, but like, they don't tend to get involved with it. In Isekai Izakaya, they actually they host some of the shipping guilds, because there's a dispute over some stuff, and they end up influencing the local food situation, because in Itheria, which like, the fact that I know this place's setting's name shows you how much this matters to the plot. In Itheria, there's like canals and waterways, but and they're full of eels, which, if you know anything about Japanese cuisine, Japanese folks love fish, and unagi is like a major deal, and people love that shit when it's prepared right. But if you're preparing it like these folks would, it's miserable. So they actually influence the entire city into treating the eels as like a delicacy, and working it into their food in less disgusting ways. And it's stuff like that, or the fact that like, they get charged with serving a lager because the kingdom has outlawed lager, but that's the style of beer that is normal for Japanese eateries. It's just like, it's an interesting contrast. And also, every episode is only like 15 minutes, and like, the back 5 minutes are scenes from an actual food critic going out and having the food that was like the feature of the episode, which is very pre-pandemic mood, but like, it's really nice. Also, no problem. How Not to Summon a Demon Lord is dumb. So, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, a man with social anxiety who has roleplayed a Demon Lord because he hates normies who come and fight him with parties made up of, you know, people in happy relationships. He just hates normies so much. He gets isekai'd as his character, and in order to maintain his sanity, he just roleplays as his character really hard. And he accidentally, because he basically has a reflector ring on, which is a rarity. And the two people that tried to summon him into this other world are trying to summon him to be like a summoned creature, and the spell reflects, and he accidentally puts the magical slave collars on them instead, and spends the entire series trying to figure out how to sort that out. It's very horny. It's horny and violent, and the titties. My god. Speaking of the titties, the Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Einherjar is a mouthful. But it's essentially in another world with my smartphone, except he's specifically he's not given any extra powers, and also he styles himself a military tactician, and also it's all Norse. And the eventual reveal is that he's actually living in Norse mythology, and he's playing out the role of Surtur, of Surt, um, and his as it's like a bastardization of his name, and it's really dumb. And the entire time he's talking to his childhood friend on the phone, like he's checking in with her, because right around the room where he stays in is like a spot of power where his cell phone gets signal. So he's talking to her basically every night. And by the end of the series, he goes back to modern day and then isekais himself back with his childhood friend, so he's not like leaving her behind. And that's how the anime ends, and it's just like, okay. God, what a fucking mess. Okay, we are fairly oh god. Okay. We're making progress. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Good. It's a good show. The protagonist saves his like kohai at work from getting stabbed, and dies on the spot, and goes, "My dude, if you really respect me, fucking throw my PC in the tub. That's my only request." And then he fucking dies, and his kohai does that. So good on that dude. But anyway, the process of him getting reincarnated is this voice listens to him complaining about the pain of his death. And he's just like, why is it so hot? And why do I feel so cold? That hurt. And he gets reincarnated into a slime. And when he does, he is deep in a cavern that he slowly begins to explore before meeting Veldora, who is a storm dragon. Okay, no lyrics, please. He finds Veldora, and in the process, also gets to know that he has like this special skill called Great Sage, where there's basically a voice in his head that can analyze things and talks to him occasionally. And he's just like, "Hey, if I eat you, Veldora, I can help you get out of this seal that you're stuck in." So he does that. He eats him, and he is basically imbued with all the mana that Veldora was made of and leaking out through the seal. And he leaves the cave, and he meets a tribe of goblins. And he defends them from a pack of direwolves who are attacking. And they decide, hey, you should be our leader. And then to celebrate that fact, he names every single one of them. And because it's one of those fantasy settings where names mean a lot, it drains a lot of magic from him. And he passes out, and he wakes up, and all the goblins are like more humanoid than they were. And then he starts directing them, and they start building a goblin town, and it slowly develops into this process of Rimuru Tempest, slowly building up the society of demi-humans, defending from attacks and allying with other demi-humans, and eventually allying with humans, and becoming the nation of I forget how that actually ends up naming everything, but like he basically ends up becoming a king just out of the choices he makes. Right, it's eventually named the Grand Juraforest Alliance or something, and the Nation of Tempest. But yeah, it then turns into like an overlord type thing, where very high power people get to fighting, and it's Good. It's good. There's a spin-off called The Slime Diaries that happens between seasons 1 and 2, I think, where yep. And then Slime Diaries is just like the day-to-day life in the nation as it gets established and as it goes on. And I enjoy all 3 seasons. I'm looking forward to the movie coming out. There are some good characters in that show, and I enjoy a lot of it. Sword Art Online Alicization, I'm going to put in A. The reason it's a separate spot from Sword Art Online is because I talked about how Sword Art Online started as an isekai-ish show, became kind of an internet detective situation with Kirito investigating things, and then it eventually becomes Alicization, where Kirito gets trapped in another world that is digital in nature, kind of like Tron, except this is populated by essentially strong AI, because this sci-fi company has decided we're going to basically run a simulation of personality AI, like weak AIs, that slowly grow and mature over generations and intermingle and thrive like a society would. And we're going to create strong AI from this. He gets put in there to save him from... He visits as part of an experiment to see how the society is going. But he gets put in there because he gets nearly killed by someone in real life. And the only way to save his brain from brain death is to put him into this simulation. And he basically, he spends a couple of years in there over the course of some actual minutes. Because, of course, the simulation fantasy is being able to simulate things at rapid speeds. And eventually he works his way into becoming a knight within the simulation with his friend Yu-Gi-Oh! And there is a girl called Alice that they go try and save, who ends up being the first strong AI to escape the simulation by breaking its rules, which are social rules in social and like actual computing rules in the simulation, like don't kill anyone. This is an entire thing, but like this is a different thing from the original, and I think this is stronger overall. But it also comes with the baggage of being Sword Art Online, which is not necessarily unsurmountable for a lot of people. Rising of the Shield Hero. This is where I start to get controversial. Hey, Excalibosaurus Rex. This is where I get controversial. Rising of the Shield Hero is garbage. So the premise is a group of 5 people, the protagonist and 4 others, are isekai'd into a world where there is a tale of 5 heroes. Is it 5 heroes or 4 heroes? There's a group of heroes, X-1 and the protagonist. The shield hero is the odd one out in the sense that like all of the other heroes have good legends written about them. The shield hero only has, really like a bad record. On top of that, all the other candidates, all the other heroes have like a shared experience that they can relate to the situation they're in, and he's just like, none of this is familiar to me. They all come from different parallel worlds. And then someone decides, yeah, let's fake rape threat. Like let's accuse this man of rape falsely. And I was just like, oh, great. Let's throw this in the bin, because I don't want to deal with that. Because honestly, the thought that someone was like, yeah, okay, let's make this protagonist subject to a false rape allegation, just normalizes the thought that that happens enough to be worth paying attention to. And then it got worse because he ends up buying slaves, a slave. And in the novel, he eventually, in the original web novel, he eventually gets to the point where he straight up erases. There's one other thing before this happens. It's right. He does. I don't know why or how, but like he changes the woman's name who like accused him of rape to like bitch or slut or something, like legally and magically or something. And it's just like, okay, that's, oh god, can we not though? And then in the web novel, he eventually erases her from existence entirely, like the entire multiverse, because he just gets so angry. And it's just like, are you okay? Like, really? Are you okay? What problems do you have with women? Jesus Christ. It's just not good. And the fact that it's like, the fact that it's so heralded as a giant good show is just so tiring. And it's getting a season 2, and I'm just like, fucking sure, I guess. One less show I don't have to watch. And the entire thing is just like, so some isekai is uplifting. It's a person being put in a new situation with powers or knowledge that can let them be, helpful to a new group of people who maybe wouldn't have. It's the fantasy of going to the past with modern medical knowledge or access to things and being able to help those in need outside your own context, because honestly, a lot of people, the fantasy is you want to help people. This is the fantasy of spite, and I don't gel with it. Like the whole thing is, this dude was just a normal dude, and then he got shot down by a random woman being randomly petty and awful, and he spends the entire thing just being miserable and wallowing in it. And I don't vibe with that. And it's just like, it's depressing. Anyway, here's depressing. The Wise Man's Grandchild is dumb as hell. I think it's still pretty good. I don't know if it's S though. I'll put that in A. The Wise Man's Grandchild is basically a dude dies, gets reincarnated as a baby, and he gets adopted by basically Merlin. I don't know if his name is actually Merlin, but like, he's the greatest wizard in the world. And then he gets adopted by, and like his not married but life partner, adventurer buddy, wife type. They raise him, and then also their friend who is really good at like martial arts and stuff also teaches the kid. But the kid has like memories from before he was born of his past life that include like science knowledge and stuff. So he does things weird. Okay, cool. They get to like his 17th or 18th birthday, and they're just like, by the way, you're going to school now because we just realized that we never taught you how to deal with society. Whoops. Please don't do anything weird. You can do that, doll. The Wise Man's Grandchild is shockingly good for that premise. And also, it ends with, like, the end of season 1. It's not getting a season 2, but, like, by the end of season 1, he's already engaged. And, like, there's no, like, well, they won't they about it. They're both, like, blushy little idiots about it, but they both get engaged. And it's just like, yeah, cool. Closure. Demon Lord Retry. It is... Okay, so Demon Lord Retry is like knockoff Overlord in the stupidest way. I don't know how else to put it. Demon Lord Retry is like knockoff Overlord with worse character designs, aka no non-humans. Um, and it's it's real dumb. Um, there's also a femboy that like really wants the main character's dick, like a real bad. He's just so horny for this man's dick, and it's just kind of wild. Demon Lord Retry. Are we getting a season 2? Do I have to? No, we are not getting a season 2 thus far. Good. Overlord is pretty good. I have a few more that I like, but I'm actually gonna move Lock Horizon up. Demon Lord Retry is just real cheesy. The main character has like an alternate personality where he turns into a chuny ass inverted version of himself that a character falls in love with, and like, it's so corny. It's so corny. But also there's like this hot surgeon demon lady. Don't look at me. Like yeah, there's a lot of isekais, and also I'm only counting each one of these as like one, even though Overlord has 4 seasons, Lock Horizon has 3. Like, there's a lot of isekai. Demon Lord Retry has a hot surgeon lady who threatens an assassin dressed as a jester by sewing his hands on backwards while he's trying to slip poison into their food. It's just like, holy fuck. Artie Furita from Commonplace the World's Strongest. So this is a group of, like a class of people, all get transported to the same place, and all start training to do dungeon delving to help. I forget why they're doing it, but it's they basically all are trying to do the stuff to help out the dungeon divers and like the Adventurers Guild, and in the process, the main character gets thrown off a bridge and falls to like near the bottom of the dungeon, and he just like, well, I'm fucked. But he manages to find a rock made of elixir so that he has basically a full heal on demand. And in the process of trying to survive, he ends up eating monster flesh, which is poisonous as hell, but since he has a full heal right next to him at all times, it's, you know, something he can stomach. And in the process of eating and surviving, he gains a lot of weird monster skills and uses those to survive as he delves further into the dungeon, where he uncovers a vampire who is the leading lady in this, who he frees, and then they go to the actual bottom of the dungeon, where they find out there are many dungeons all over the world, and there's a warp out, and they go on an adventure to find the thing, and the entire class think he's dead, except he meets up with his class eventually, or some members of his class eventually later on, and they don't recognize him because the process of getting fucked up on monster bits turned his hair white and fucked up his eye color too, so he turns into like the anime boy colors, and it's all right. But like, I think it suffers from adaptation. I feel like the light novel is probably a lot better. It feels a little rushed because they wanted to get to the whole reuniting with his class after he had his power, like his powers unlocked sequence, which is a little long in the tooth. I think, for what they were trying to do, but it was all right. I think it's all right that it got a second season. Okay, Copcraft. Copcraft is a story about uh it's a cop story. So basically the premise is somewhere in America. I don't know if there's a specific place they modeled it on, but basically um there's another world that has like a portal open to it, and it's kind of like Blood Blockade Battlefront, where like denizens of this other world kind of show up in our world, and we have to kind of live with it as a society. But it starts out with like there's a case of fairies going missing and being used to produce drugs. Um, and those, and it basically turns into a series of like, I don't know, CSI episodes, except I guess not CSI, but like it's a cop show, but there's an Isekai element involved, and that his new partner is an elf girl, and it's not bad, but it's still very much a cop show. So if you're not willing to put up with cops, it's it's gonna put you off. I ended up watching all of it in one go because it was actually it was shockingly written. Like there's a sequence where one of the ladies talks about how one of her hobbies is going on Wikipedia rabbit holes. And let me see if I can find it. Okay, here's what I said to my friend Doll. This fucking show, I can't tell if it's stupid or great. The whole department is looking for a suspect, and some of the women there have a rapport with some of the local sex workers and are following a lead through that. And they find out he had a tattoo of a bulldog, which leads one of them to go, he might be a Marine from a while back. They recently changed their rules on tattoos. I mean, they have to be able to be covered with a t-shirt. The other one goes, are you into military dudes? And she replies, no, I'm just really into Wikipedia. I fell down a rabbit hole looking at the M4 carbine for work. The other one goes, so when M4 carbine, American military weapons, Marine Corps? And the other one goes, nope, it went M4 carbine, American military weapons, inertial navigation system, laser gyro, Sagnac effect, Einstein gravity, astronomy, solar system, Oort cloud, asteroid, dinosaurs, Saurischia, pelvis fetus, cesarean section, bulldog marines. And the other two ladies in the scene just fucking stare at her. And I checked the JP audio for that. It wasn't just a dub joke. It really was like that. Like, someone writing this knew the fucking nonsense they were on about with the character writing, and I'm here for it, honestly. Like I said, if you can't put up with cop shows, probably not for you. But it's good, I think. Isekai Cheat Magician. I want to put it in C, but or I want to put it in B, but it's a C. This is a show about two childhood friends slash they're kind of pre-romance closeness. They get isekai together. It turns out they get given magical powers. The boy has like a summon inside of him that he eventually learns to call out, but the girl is just really good at magic. And they get involved in assorted political ploys to get them to fucking end the world, question mark. It doesn't go anywhere. It's not bad, it's just not great. Do you love your mom and her two-hit multi-target attacks? I do not like your mom and her two-hit multi-target attacks. This show has character designs by Pochi Sensei. They're cute characters. I will say that. But also, the writing is too accurate, and I feel like I want to keel over every time the moms in this show do something. Because I do not like the mother. And it's just, tiring. They're basically testing a mom. They are beta testing a mom themed VR MMO, and it's just kind of sketch the entire thing. Cautious hero. The hero is overpowered, but overly cautious. I fucking can't stand this dude, and also the tone of the writing in this. So I didn't watch more than one episode. I didn't need more of that. As usual, the protagonist or the title says way too much, but it says enough. This is the sort of dude who goes, "Oh, I got isekai'd. I need to raise my level. I'm going to do 2,000 push-ups real quick, and I'm secretly level 80 now." It's just like, okay, calm down. Kimono Michi, what if a wrestler got isekai and all he wanted to do was run a pet shop with exotic fantasy pets? What if he solved all his problems by fucking suplexing someone? What if you got tired of this bit, like 30 seconds in? Shoyoyu! High school prodigies have it easy even in another world. This is like, what if we isekai Danganronpa characters? In the best way. But also, let's not talk about it. Ascendance of a Bookworm. This show slaps. So basically, the premise of Ascendant of a Bookworm is that a girl fucking dies. She dies of getting crushed to death by books. Because she loves books so much, she was in the library and something happened and she got crushed by books. And she wakes up and she is a small child. Shut up. She wakes up, she is a small child with a, like, questionable anime disease in a completely different world, and she eventually, she uses her knowledge of arts and crafts and just having read a lot to make assorted goods for herself and her family, and she eventually learns how to make books and gets, and slowly makes her way up in the world. She also has to constantly be reminded that they live in a society where money matters, which is a fucking mood. I also wish I could forget that money mattered. But, like, she has two different people that have to tell her, hey, no, don't give this away. You need to make money to live. Please, let us manage all this for you, please. Thank you. It's really good. It got a third season. I haven't watched it because I wanted to rewatch the first two. Welcome to Dearman School, Inarimo-kun. What if Disgaea was an isekai, but not like Disgaea 6? So basically, what is it? It's Rosario the Vampire, where a normal kid gets isekai'd to another world with assorted things, and he needs to fight the fact that he's a human. But what if the world was Disgaea instead, and he went to demon school? It's really fucking good. I'm so glad we're getting a season 3. It has some Disgaea-ass music. He's German suplexes a dude on his first day there. His grandpa, his adoptive grandpa, is the principal or the headmaster. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? The reference for this one. Thank you. So the premise for this one is that kind of a hickey nerd girl gets killed by something. She dies. And she meets God, and God's just like, hey, how do you want to go, what do you want in the next life? And she's like, make my abilities average. I was isolated because I was too good at grades and I looked too pretty. Which, like, okay, a little full of yourself. And so the God does that. Except God makes her an average of all life forms on Earth, which includes statistical outliers Dragon George. So her magical power is off the fucking charts. Anyway, she makes friends with a bunch of girls, and it's kind of light girl fun time adventure stuff. It's good. I like it. The eighth son, are you kidding me? This is a very stupid name, but also it fits the show. So the premise for this one is he gets isekai'd into a noble family, but then he finds out that the entire family is a poor noble family, and they can basically only afford to look noble when they have proper events to put on. And the rest of the time, they basically hunt on their land and live off stale bread and thin soup. And he's the eighth son in this family. But he finds that he has a natural aptitude for magic. He goes to be... He finds a tutor, or rather, a tutor finds him and passes on his magical training. And then he goes off to be an adventurer and ends up killing an undead dragon and winning himself a shit ton of notoriety, and gets trapped in society once again. Basically, this is We Live in a Society, the isekai. He goes off to be, he's just like, I'm going to escape my family like bondage and go like live my free life, and he immediately gets tricked into fighting something and gets handed like noble status, like extra noble notoriety from the king directly, and then he just keeps on doing stuff. And despite trying to be an adventurer, he just like, well, I have social responsibilities now. Whoops. Anyway, he slowly accrues a contingent of retainers. 3 of which end up trying to wife him, and one of them is just like, yo, dude, I'm not into you, but like, if you want to fucking keep paying me to be a decent warrior around, I'll stick to it. Okay, now we have My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. Bisexual disaster harem show. It's really good. So basically, okay, I will take care of myself. I have a special bottle of water so that I can't be distracted too much by having to go and get a glass of water. Thank you, doll, for the VIP care package. Okay. My Next Life as a Villainess is really good. I will say that. The premise is the protagonist is the villainess of an otome game, but she falls and hits her head, and she remembers memories of a past life from when she was a high school girl who was playing the game that this villainess is the villain of. And she uses that knowledge to completely pivot what her character is supposed to be, and she ends up having the entire cast, male and female, after her romantically, because she's just like so much of a bimbo airhead who just like, hi, I'm supposed to be the bad guy, but I'm gonna learn how to cook, and I'm also gonna learn how to grow fucking like so the thought she has is, if I'm exiled, I need to be self sufficient, and if I get threatened, if my life is threatened, I need to be like competent in fighting. So she takes up like the sword, like she tries to learn how to fight, and then she's just like, actually, I'm just gonna learn how to farm. So she picks up farming as a hobby, and it's just like, it's really good and cute, and like everyone loves her. Katarina Claes is God. Hit me with it, you dweeb. I'm waiting. I'm going to kill you. Fuck me. Just to spite you, I'm gonna drink my non-water drink. I'm undoing your hydration. You hit me with a VIP care package just so you could hit me with a VIP VIP uncaring package. Anyway, the next Life as a Villainess is cute. I think people should watch it. There's a line where I think there's a line that's like Lady Katarina is problematic, but she is well loved nonetheless. I was just like, mood. I'm standing on 1,000,000 lives. This is interesting. So the premise for this one is that the protagonist is a disillusioned kid who moved to the city from like a mountain village, like a rural village where people are a lot closer, and he hates people. He's such a misanthrope. And then he gets isekai'd into a world where it's edgy, grim, dark, difficult to fight things, and he has to he gets randomly assigned the farmer class. And this is interesting. So he's a misanthrope, but he's still like taking things responsibly in his party that he slowly develops. In really, like, he doesn't want to be a misanthrope. He wants to care about people, but he feels like people have betrayed him too much for him to be like really like optimistic about that fact, which is a mood. Because I've been there. If my love for fucking my teenage rom-com snafu isn't obvious, I am also at heart a depressed teen. But like, it's interesting because this eventually reveals that. So the reason they're being isekai'd is to prepare themselves for a supposed invasion of a kaiju on their world. But they also find out that the world they're visiting, because they go there for like set periods of time, and they have missions to complete given to them by this like faceless weirdo, that calls himself God. Every time they go visit this world, like time has passed since last they were there in like a non-linear way. And they find out that the world they're visiting is actually like a separate real world. So they're not like in a simulation or anything. They're just like straight up visiting another world and dealing with its inhabitants for a certain amount of time. And it's really fascinating because it implies this like huge network of isekai like worlds that are really kind of cool. It's also really fucking edgy and grim for middle schoolers to be fucking fighting and dying and doing some dumb shit. By the Race of the Gods. This is getting a season 2, and I'm glad. The premise for this one is, the protagonist is a man who prides himself on being stubborn and withstanding the abuse of his company, because he works for like a black company, which means he's being abused by the work schedule and his bosses all the time just to make the bottom line. But he sneezed in his sleep, fell off the bed and had an aneurysm that killed him. And he's just like, fuck me, that sucked. And 3 gods, hence the name, by their grace, reincarnate him as a small child. And he uses that opportunity to learn how to tame slimes. And he ends up taming a lot of slimes and learning about their different properties and stuff. And he eventually meets the family that he's pictured with here and helps them out, and then moves into a city where they're working or where they live, and opens like a laundromat, because like one of the things he does is he develops like these cleaner slimes that help sanitize stuff, and they eat dirt and assorted things, and he uses that to clean out the public bath or the public restrooms. Um, and then he was just like, well, that worked pretty fucking well. Let's start a laundromat. And he starts a little laundry company with his slimes. And it's just a really chill little time looking at the lens of this world through these beast tamers' eyes. And the slimes are cute and helpful and everything, and it's just kind of a chill time. On the other hand, so I'm a spider, so what? The protagonist of So I'm a Spider, So What, who goes by Kumoko for most of the show, which means spider girl, you know, gets reincarnated as a spider. She like barely escapes becoming food for her siblings. And then she goes on to develop herself as a unique monster over the course of a long time. And she crawls her way out of this giant dungeon and eventually makes it to the surface. And it's really interesting watching this and the parallel storyline where the rest of her class finally meet up at school. Because it turns out all of they have narrowly avoids, you say. Her entire class also got isekai, including their teacher. So there's parallel storylines running where the spider Kumoko is doing all her stuff, and there's stuff going on with the politics and training involved in the nobles that were the isekai kids stuff, running through all of their stuff. And it's really interesting. I want a season 2, but I don't know where to go from there. So I might just have to read the light novels, honestly. It is really genuinely a very good show for as much of a meme as that pitch is. Shockingly. Okay, here's my other major hot take. Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation is not good. I think all of the ways in which a lot of these shows are good are direct replies to the ways that I find this show lacking. And this is, it finally got an anime adaptation, but this is one of the stories that kind of set off the reincarnation boom and the isekai boom. People call it the granddaddy of isekai, and it's just like, okay, do you know what your granddad did? Your granddad had some shit opinions. Like, I'm sorry to say that, but like, that's more accurate than you want to admit. So the premise with this one is a 30-something NEET with social anxiety and trauma about a bunch of stuff is too busy being a fucking sicko to go to his parents' funeral and gets thrown out of his house, and then tries to save someone from a truck that's about to hit them and dies himself and gets reincarnated. He spends the entire, and I did watch, like, how many fucking episodes did I watch? I'd watched like a significant amount of this show. It's not like I stopped after one episode. Did I finish watching part 2? No, I think I started part 2. The problem is, he was a scumbag to start, and he retains all of his attitude toward, you know, what he's entitled to after his reincarnation. I'll talk about a different show soon, this one. But Mushoku Tensei, he's just kind of a shitty little pervert, and he doesn't get over that in any meaningful way. And it's just kind of an indulgent story about what he wants to do while with all this new power in a new world. and all the adventures he gets thrown into. This is the sort of thing where, like, the premise, not terrible. The execution, however, deeply lacking. And I would rather not remember that this exists, but it's unfortunately on the top of a lot of people's list just because it's perceived as the first and thus the best, because it's not like we can ever learn or improve from things, you know, like we do all the time with media. But, like, Rudius Grey Rat, I think of the first season, I remember that he decided to steal the panties off of from this girl and like keeps them as a holy relic. I remember reading that he also like keeps the virginal bed sheets of the fucking girl, the redhead girl. Like, there is a timeline in which man with trauma and social anxiety reconsiders his place and becomes a better person over the course of the show. This is not it, my friends. Probably the most illuminating part of this, and why I'm actually glad that we got to talk about By the Grace of the Gods before this. There's a part where God speaks directly to this protagonist, and like it's like this white space where it's just like the self-image of this person and this higher being. In By the Grace of the Gods, after their first meeting, it's been a few years, and the protagonist sees himself as he is, like as the young kid, because he's accepted that he's a different person now and he's got a different personhood. When that happens in Mushoku Tensei, he still views himself as this giant, like, mess of an adult man. And the fucking God comments on it like, wow, is that really still how you see yourself? And then the show just glazes over it. And it's just like, he's not actually interested. The show isn't interested in him, like, rehabilitating himself. And I just lost all interest after part 1 of season 1 because of that. It's really just unfortunate that that's what people's high watermark is. Same with the Rising of the Shield Hero. It just fucking skeeves me out in a way that I know a lot of people just won't think about, which drives me up a wall. Okay. Combatants will be dispatched. So the protagonist of this one is a secret agent from an organization of villains who is just about to take over Earth. For sure, definitely. He is sent to a completely different world to start spreading the influence of the organization to a different world while they finish up Earth. He also gets handed an android who is the blonde girl next to him. And then things get stupid in a really fun way. They recruit locals, and end up just kind of being adventurers and mercs for hire to keep the stability so that there's like a civilization to take over after a bunch of ancient mechs and dragons and shit wake up, and it's just like, okay, this is fun, this is dumb. He also has to earn evil points to like request equipment, like requisition equipment. And all of his ideas for evil things to do are just like being really mean or dumb in really stupid ways, in really like minor petty ways. Like he flashes someone and gets a weird fucking nickname, and he only gets like 3 evil points. And it's like, okay, this is a stupid petty man, and it's funny to watch him fail to be evil. Okay, The saint's magic power is omnipotent. So this is interesting because unlike a lot of stuff that I mentioned so far, this is a an otome situation where the main character is a lady, and it's about her getting isekai. It turns out that there are two people that are isekai in this ritual. And the people in charge think the other one is the one that has all the magic power that they were looking for. They are wrong. Her magic power is significant, and she's like, I forget whether she's like she's like a hobbyist. I forget actually. I don't know if they make a big point of what she does, but like she ends up becoming like a chemist and making a lot of like different salves and potions and like creams and stuff for cosmetics, and also because they don't have cosmetics in the same capacity that we do, and she's just like, well, I kind of want to have makeup. So she works on that. She ends up making potions and ends up learning that the key to her magic power is love, which is good because she has a crush on a knight dude. It's cute. I think it's cute and good. Extremely hetero, but you know. Okay. We're gonna put full dive there. Full dive. This ultimate next gen full dive RPG is even shittier than real life. From the same author as Cautious Hero, the hero is overly cautious. This is a man goes to a used game store to try and buy a new copy of the newest Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or whatever the fuck, and gets handed this weird fucking niche permadeath VR MMO with hardcore pain simulation and everything. And the clerk at the fucking game store is hot, so he just kind of goes along with it. And then he fucks up everything and everything goes wrong. I think by like episode 3 I was just like, I'm not gonna watch this. It seems a little too edgy. It's not bad, but like there are better things to watch, for sure. And I dipped out before I could form a real opinion on it. But also, actually, no, I will put this in D, because there's a scene where he's getting tortured and he pisses himself and he unlocks a secret route where the torturer is just like, okay, that's beyond the pale somehow. And he gets a special title, and also like the weird red-haired yandere character decides, oh my god, I love how your piss smelled. I'm gonna torture you until you do it again. Thanks, anime. I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level. Office worker gets isekai'd. Goddess is just like, I'll make you look cute, have fun, and because she just wanted like a house where she can live comfortably. And then on her like walks into town, she killed slimes, and she's immortal, so she just did that for 300 years and she maxed out her level. And then then she gets found out, and a dragon comes by. Spirits born of the slimes she killed come by. An elf comes by. It's basically mainly women found family slice of life, which is nice. It's cute. Okay. How a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom is shockingly good. More good than I would have probably expected, but it's I don't know how to explain why I think it's good, but it's very, it's like, fucking, it's dumb, but it's good. It apparently gets pretty unhinged um, in the light novels that haven't been adapted yet, but basically across the anime that adapted it, it does qualify and fulfill its premise and title. Essentially, this civics student gets isekai, and he's just like, okay, so I'm supposed to be like a warrior hero, right? I can't fucking fight. Uh, I I don't want to get sent off to fight a war. And then the king, after seeing how he has the skills to manage the kingdom better than he does, the king just goes, "Well, I abdicate the throne to this man." And then he's just like, "Oh, fucking what? Excuse me?" And then he just goes. It's revealed later on that he had a revelation of sorts, that trying to do any less would have ended poorly. But it's interesting seeing modern civic engineering put to use in designing cities and affecting society in something like this. He also I don't know what to say about the politics of this one, because there are politics that happen, but I'm mostly remembering how he put so much work into public service that you know, everything else is kind of whatever. Okay, Seirei Gensoki Spirit Chronicles. A dude gets isekai'd because a bus he's on fucking gets T-boned by a train, I think, or a truck, I forget. He dies. He wakes up as a small child who has magic powers stemming from a spirit living inside of him. He eventually finds a way to evoke her. And he also makes like a friend of like a cat girl who is like working as an assassin, who turns out to be the a girl that he like had seen on the bus right before they got fucking killed. And then at the end of season 1, and because they were getting a fucking season 2, that's relevant. Because of course we're getting a fucking season 2. At the end of season 1, several more light pillars land, and a lot of people are also isekai'd, it seems. So it's going to be something, but first season was just kind of meh. Director in Another World, Slow Life of a Cheat Pharmacist. This honestly didn't need to be an isekai. I don't think like a whole lot of this really benefits from having like the isekai backstory. It's all right. It's like a really, really Yashike, really kind of overly chill show. Tsukimichi, Moonlit Fantasy. Okay, so this one, a goddess isekais, to isekais a kid to her world, except she's just like, oh Jesus, you're ugly. I let your two parents go to the other world, and they were both from my world, so they were both beautiful. How did you turn out so fucking ugly? And she kicks him out of heaven into the world and just kind of figures he was gonna fucking die. Except a god from his side of the interdimensional veil talks to him and goes like, okay, yeah, that's kind of fucked up, but don't worry, you have my blessing at least. So he has some amount of magic power and he learns to deal with that. But also he gets rescued by a group of, are they orcs? I forget if they're orcs. I forget what they're called. What specifically they are. Uh, Let me look up the characters. Highland orcs, yeah, they're pig folk. And there's a girl named Emma who saves him and goes, "Hey, you have kind of a wild fucking magic aura. Are you like cool?" And then she helps him learn how to do magic, and he defeats a dragon who then forms a contract with him and takes the form of like a samurai. Um, and then eventually it just turns into like he learns that he has a pocket dimension that he eventually lets a bunch of demi-humans live in. And it kind of expands to let them live within it, and they have a safe place to farm and grow and prosper. Um, and the drama ends up being interacting with the various human factions and their hatred for demi-humans over the course of stuff. We're getting a season 2 of this, and I'm really happy about it. Dungeon of Black Company. A dude works his best, works hard, quote unquote hard, to get rich enough that he can make money to live by just continuing to exist. And then he gets his dumb fucking landlord ass isekai'd, and he has to start from the fucking bottom again, and he tries every get rich quick scheme in the fucking book. And I don't know if it works because I was kind of put off by the man's attitude from the start. It's probably not the worst, but I would need to be in a more generous mood to watch it. The Great Jahi will not be defeated. This manga has been going on for a bit, I think. But essentially, it's a magical girl villain gets wrecked by a magical girl. Like, her entire castle gets wrecked by a magical girl, and she gets sent to our world, and part of her magic is making her look like an older, like a grown woman. So when she's low on magic, like, you know, you would be if you were low on magic because you got isekai. She's a little cat girl. It's kind of like Devil is a part-timer. Where the fuck is that? Kind of like Devil is a part-timer, but with a cute cat girl. And she's doing her best. It's not McDonald's, but she works like a job at a bar and tries to make a living that way while trying to make enough money to save up to get a magic stone to like go back and reclaim her throne. The fruit of evolution. Before I knew it, my life had it made. And that's the B joke. It's another one of these group isekai things where an entire class, I think even the entire school might have gotten isekai'd. It's not 100% sure on that. But they were told to party up by this mysterious voice, and no one would party up with the fat kid, and then he gets isekai'd alone into a completely different area, and the only thing he can find to eat are these little fucking fruits of evolution, and he eats them, and he evolves into an average Japanese man with big stats. And then he fights a gorilla who then finishes eating her fruit of evolution and becomes a pretty girl. And then he slowly develops a harem of fucking non-humans that are evolved into humanoids, and that's dumb and is bad, and there's an unironic Yaranaika joke out of a fucking pair of dudes that try to seduce him, and it's just like, what fucking year is it? Okay. The world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat. It's a mouthful. I don't know if it's fondness. I think it's Doll wants to make me suffer. But yeah. The world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat. It's not bad, but it's a little too... Actually, I'm gonna put it up here. I think it was a good. I think it's an interesting concept to have the, the fucking... the title says it all, for better and for worse. Basically, a legendary hitman in our world gets killed by his organization for wanting to retire. And, the goddess of reincarnation goes, hey, you, I'm gonna snatch you out of the afterlife and be like, hey, I need a hero murdered. I need you to let the hero save the world from the demon lord and then kill him before he kills the world. Because it turns out, if you kill the demon lord who threatens the world's stability, you probably have the power to cause some problems yourself. So that happens, and he brings all of his, like, assassin knowledge and everything, and is trained formally as an assassin by his Isekai dad. And it's just like, okay, it's interesting for what it is, but also it's just kind of edgy. And he has a maid who he rescues from like another nation. She was running away from basically a war zone, I think, and had a revelation that, granted by the goddess that sent him there, that he would save her. So they are keenly aware that it is, like, not a healthy relationship, but she still relies on him, and she is fine with that. And I think at least acknowledging that makes it stronger than in a lot of ways than some stuff. But okay, the Faraway Paladin. Let me see if I can find the... Okay, so the Faraway Paladin has really good art for the light novel covers. And also, it's probably just one of the best isekais, like, out there. Like, I will genuinely recommend the Faraway Paladin. So the premise is, the protagonist reawakens as a baby in a land of the undead, and he learns over the course of his childhood that within this specific city, the city of the dead, there are no humans. Everything is undead, and the three that are taking care of him, William, what was it? No, he's named William. And he is being taken care of by Blood the Skeleton, Mary the Mummy, and Gus the Ghost. And he learns assorted things as he grows up, including the fact that the world is ruled by a series, like a group of gods. And he learns about the Pantheon, and that as societies shift, different gods fall in and out of favor, and they will be treated as different, like, as evil or good, depending on who has most recently, like, fit the paradigm of things and their actions. But he learned, and this is, like, really early on, so this is not heavy spoilers, but he eventually learns that his, like, adoptive parents are doing their best to take care of him despite their undead nature, because they were actually part of the heroes group that trapped the god of death stagnate in a seal in the city of the undead, and they promised to their gods that they would protect the city while they were like while they were staying there. And then suddenly William appeared because he got isekai'd. And probably the pivotal thing for me was there were two moments in the first couple episodes that really just like hit me right in the heart. There was when baby William, still in Mary's arms, goes outside with her for the first time and sees like the horizon and the sky, and he's just like, this tiny baby, but also a person who thought they were worthless, just goes, this is a chance to make myself something that I didn't take in my first life, and I'm gonna fucking make the most of that chance. And that was just like, yeah, that's a fucking mood, kid. But also later on, he gets curious about Mary because Mary somehow, she's a mummy, she's undead, and she's always covered in like bandages and stuff, and her face is covered. But she keeps bringing him bread every day, and she's just like, don't ask where this came from. Everyone's kind of cool. Blood does hunting so that like he has food, but he gets curious one day where she's going and where this bread is coming from, and he goes to investigate and walks in on her in the chapel praying to the Earth Mother Goddess for her literal daily bread, and she is completely on fire because she's an undead, and interacting with a holy being like that is literally just going to light you on fire. And he tries to like save her and badly burns both of his arms. And in the recovery, all three of his caretakers are talking to him, just going like, why didn't you listen to us? You promised that you wouldn't ask questions about this stuff. And it's just really, really touching character writing. They also introduce in the second arc, they introduced like an elf who I think is cool, and in the arc after right after that, they have like a gnome or a halfling bard and a salesman that they end up traveling with. And I just really think that like, oh yeah, the key point of all of the build up is that he's called the Faraway Paladin because like all of his caretakers eventually have to go because they've lost their attachment, like they've lost their unfinished business, and Stagnate is going to take them away because the god of undeath has let them live this long. But he swears an oath to the goddess of light and becomes the first paladin in a long time, and straight up fights off the god of death with the power of with this one miracle and all the things that his parents taught him, and it's good. And also, his name is William, and they were just like, if you're going out into the world, you probably need like a last name, and he takes up the name Mary's Blood because it's a tradition to take your parents' names as your last name, and then he becomes William G. Mary's Blood for Gus's sake. And it's just like, oh, he's taking his family with him. That's cute. Anyway, I'm weak. All right. Um. Okay. In the land of Leedale. Um. So, in the land of Leedale is weird because it's just like a terminal patient who is really into VR MMOs as a way to keep her mind off the fact that she was, you know, terminally ill. Uh, logs or gets isekai'd at the end of her life into the game. And it turns out that all of her like she has like retainers, but in this game it's like an adoption system. So she has a bunch of kids, and her adopted children went on to be important members of like a big nation, and she's overpowered, and she goes around and tries to find out what happened to the legacies of the other people that she was like in kind of an echelon of skill at. She was like one of the top players, so she tries to find out what went on to all of those people. It's fine. It's not bad, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I haven't finished watching Life with an Ordinary Guy Who Reincarnated into a Total Fantasy Knockout, but um, it's it might be good. Okay, I'm gonna put it into B because I'm going to finish watching it. So the premise is an average dude and a perfect dude are friends. The perfect dude has been popular with women all his life, but he also witnessed what they're willing to act up and do to get his attention, so he's just kind of like traumatized. Meanwhile, the average guy has had multiple crushes on girls who have all been interested in perfect dude, um, and has been trying to get him married off so he can have a chance. Um, then after getting blitzed at a mixer, um, oh right, and the perfect dude enjoys the average dude's company because he can't deal with anyone else. So after getting absolutely plastered in a mixer, the ordinary guy, the average guy, goes, God, it would be so much easier if I was just a really cute girl. And then the goddess of beauty and love shows up and grants that wish and also isekais them. And and then they were both like, hey, what the fuck is up with this? Why did you do this? And she's just like, you ungrateful little shits. I'm gonna curse you to fall in love with each other. Hop to it. You better get on beating the demon lord. Now it's just like, okay, whatever. This whole thing smacks of gender. Um, she professed herself pupil of the wise man. It's not good. I skipped out on it for a reason. Essentially, the premise is another VMR MMO like becomes a reality thing, and except this time, uh, the main character, the main character was playing a mix of Dumbledore and Gandalf, like specifically and genuinely. That is the premise of his character was wizened old man named Danbolf. He was fucking around with a vanity case and then fell asleep, and then whoops, people got isekai'd. 30 years passed within the game. He wakes up, he's still a girl. He has to deal with it. It's not good. I haven't watched Trapped in a Dating Sim yet. This is like, what if you were trapped in a dating sim, but also, what if you were a mob instead of an actual protagonist? Um, Skeleton Knight in Another World. I hope it gets to season 2. Skeleton Knight in Another World is basically, a dude gets isekai'd. His character is a skeleton. It's like Overlord, but not, he's not like super powerful or well connected or anything. He's just a knight who is a skeleton. He makes friends with an elf. And also, and then oh yeah, that was the other half of the pitch. He makes friends with an elf who is just like, God, I fucking hate humans. And then they go around rescuing slaves from their and dismantling systems of racist oppression. They also end up meeting a furry ninja, a cat-eared ninja, and then they rescue cat-eared folks from slavery. and he's just a skeleton, and he's just like, well, I guess I'm a skeleton. I should work on getting that fixed. Oh, right. This is the one where the elves are from the Great Forest of Canada. How could I forget? Fuck. That's not a joke. They are from the Great Canada Forest. Their villages are named after types of trees. Okay. Okay. My Isekai life, I gained a second character class and became the strongest sage in the world. Oh, yeah. This is fine. It's fine. Actually, I'll put Skeleton Knight up there. I actually finished it, and it is good. My Isekai life, I gained a second character class and became the strongest sage in the world. So basically, I haven't watched enough of this, but it does have a funny ED that I like, that I'm gonna pause the thing and play. It has an ED sung by the Slimes that are part of the group, and it's cute. Uncle from Another World is depressing. If I wanted if I wanted to contemplate social failures, I would simply recollect my own. I don't need that. I haven't watched more of Harem in Another World, in the Labyrinth, blah blah blah. Because Crunchyroll has censored the shit out of it, and I have not been bothered to download the episodes. But it's fine. It's fine. I just haven't fucking bothered. Black Summoner. I think I'm gonna like this one, but I haven't seen it go to ham yet. So the premise for this one is another. I think I mentioned Grimgar. Grimgar has amnesia and isekai as overlapping like blank slate makers, which is kind of like in this one I don't really see what that's doing for it. In Black Summoner, I actually think it's fine. So the premise here is Kelvin. His name is Kelvin. He reincarnates in another world, and in the process of building his character and his skill builds for the new world, he sacrifices his memories to get more skill points, which tells you a lot about how he is. So he's slowly working up to, he's rediscovering his personality for himself, and also he apparently charmed the goddess of reincarnation into abandoning her job for a bit to be his first familiar, but he doesn't have the MP to summon her. But because she's his familiar and he can communicate with his familiars at any time with his summoner skills, she's just like his mental buddy so far, which is, this probably won't be too bad. But it's not super compelling right out the gate. And then Parallel World Pharmacy, I've only watched 3 episodes, and I think I would die for this child. So the premise of Parallel World Pharmacy is there's a pharmacologist in our world who is doing groundbreaking research and stuff because his younger sister died of like a terminal illness when, like a specific one that I just don't remember. A terminal illness when he was younger, and it fucking traumatized him. So you're just like, I'm gonna be the best fucking pharmacologist. I'm gonna do all the medicine forever. And then he overworks himself to death and gets reincarnated into the body of a child who was just struck by lightning. And learns that he has magic powers that allow him to synthesize any molecule that he can visualize. And do a bunch of magic other shit. And he uses this knowledge and his knowledge of diseases to cure an empress of tuberculosis. After every other physician in the court has given up on her. I'm going to enjoy it because I really just do love all the stuff that's just like, here's Isekai. The power fantasy is, I want to help people. Sure. I'm not going to complain about that. Compared to, welcome to Isekai, my power fantasy is I want to get away with sexual harassment, or I want to get away with murdering a woman. God, I hate anime sometimes. Anyway. This is about it. I'm gonna be nice to Tenchi Muyo. So here it is. I will stand by most of these opinions. These are not ordered within the tiers, by how much I would watch them or recommend them. These are mostly chronological, but like, all of these are really good. Some of these for stupider reasons. But like, Log Horizon, good, like, discussion of society and community. Konosuba is just stupid fun. Recreators is a fun time and discusses the place of fandom in determining canon. In Another World, my smartphone is just fucking dumb. Isekai, and Restaurant to Another World are just chill times. Ascendance of a Bookworm, kind of just nice seeing some fun shenanigans where a girl really needs to be told that capitalism or capital is important. Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, good shonen nonsense. I will heartily recommend My Next Life as a Villainess and Soma Spider So What. Bisexual disaster harem and not vor. Wink. She eats a lot of things. She eats so many things. It's eat core. I'll just say that. Anyway, I did just ramble for nearly 3 hours. So I hope everyone understands that I am deeply troubled. Because goddamn, this is not gonna stop. Thanks for coming by, everyone. We will see if there's anyone I can raid. Yes, we will be raiding Proxy. Boop. Alrighty, I'm gonna send you off to watch Proxy, who is currently playing Hylix 2. I hope everyone has a lovely Sunday evening, and I will see you around tomorrow. And my dad's home, so rambling. Anyway, bye-bye.